Peace YouTube, this is FleurBrun coming to you today with a new topic of discussion. I'll wait until a few of you check on me. Check on it? He said, is it working? It'll be an interesting day when my YouTube actually works properly. I shouldn't have ever put the word MkULTRA in my title, you know. So, check on in. How come I don't see comments on here? There we go. Peace, Gina. Okay. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Please put a handy dandy like as you check in the room. It's really quiet, right? The calm before the storm. Alright. So it's interesting. I know it's Saturday. I always come impromptu. So, hey, Philly's in the house. I haven't seen Philly in a long time. Thank you. Thank you. Check on him. He said Martin Lawrence looks like a hot mess. I'm sure. Grand Rising. Hey, Adriana. How you doing, Mama? Okay. I'm pretty calm. It's interesting when I'm calm, right? Y'all should be careful when I'm calm. Okay. We're going to talk about, I should say east, the east, the west, north, and the south. We're going to talk about open portals and inorganic portals. I think the stimulus of this conversation is a couple of things, but helicopters are ready. I didn't even start. Helicopters coming in like, oh snap, she's going in. She wasn't supposed to go in so early. My hands are really dry. So let me make a couple of announcements before we start. I'll wait until a few more people check in. Peace, Purple Goddess. Right? The stimulus for this conversation was a few things, okay? There were a couple questions of some of the family asking about, people being walking portals, and asking if there were more people that were portals, so to speak. And I was like, absolutely. There are beings walking around here who are walking, talking, open vessels for anything to jump in. And I will go into the basis of what I've come to know as that being an issue. We'll go into forms of organic portals, walking portals, people that are portals, animals that are portals, and then we'll go into inorganic portals, okay? And how MkULTRA plays into this as well, depending on the vessel, okay? So check on in. Please put a handy dandy like as you step in the room. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I know many of you were looking for me to go on last night. I was chilling. Listen, I was looking at things online. Sometimes I just want to relax, family. Sometimes I just don't want to necessarily get into the shenanigans. I'm chilling, enjoying the weather, the calm before the storm, seeing as everything unfolds. So, I'm going to go into tequila. First, let me make an announcement. My nails are not the best promotion for this. But big up to our homegirl, Kiki. Now, listen, I was looking at my nails. She wrote an amazing book, and you have to get it. You got to go to kikimancy.com to get her book. It talks about the how your nails can register your personality, how you can change the feng shui of yourself, how your nails, how it's shaped, has a certain elemental quality. She's the bomb.com. Like, she wrote this. Listen, Kiki's the one who was giving us all the intel. She's like a really great intellist too. So big up to Kiki. She's on the other side of the planet right now. But she wrote a book talking about the connection to nails and, putting certain ornaments in your nails that, she's about that life. Remember, she's a palm reader. So she knows how to read the lines in your hands. She does that she's a master at doing that. But she actually went into the nails. So if you want to listen, I'm a big supporter of her 1000%, and I was reading it, I was like, oh snap, had I known this years ago, because I don't really polish my nails, but the shape of your nails, if it represents fire or water or air, the element, she's on point. So if you want to check her out, go to kikimancy.com. I love her, love her, love her, love her. I love her book. I was reading it last night. I was like, oh snap. I was in shock. I was like, hey Selma, I was like, wait a second. Absolutely, I agree 1000%, but only she could do this. So again, I'll put her information on there. Support her. It's not even support. You want this book. It's just good to have in your archives to reference, especially a lot of unistas like to do your nails, and even gentlemen, like the way your nails are shaped, the shape of your nails, how it's cut, the healthiness or non-healthiness, the ornaments you put on your hand. It's down to the science, and she's that type of person. Just the way she is really phenomenal in that way. So again, check out Kiki Mancy, Kiki Mancy, MANCY.com. I was gonna say the copper book. I'm so old school. We say cop, like to get something. It's a copper book. You gotta check it out. I was reading. I was in awe. I was in shock. I know she's about this life, but it was even more like to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, like really? And I was like, I can totally agree with everything. I just wouldn't have known. So anyway, hey Narda, hey Star Rose. All right, so let's get in the conversation about open portals. And I know many of you were disturbed when I shared the4ThKind's video. Thank you for everyone. Let me explain something. I am so grateful that a lot of you mommies and a lot of you called the authorities to make sure the babies were okay in that house. She literally has gone ultimately to the other side. Now, I'm going to go and use her as an example. This isn't to demonize her. Let me state this. You're not to hurt her. Yo, Cheryl's already going in. It wasn't to demonize her, because we have to think there are a lot of people here that have signed away their lives, and also sometimes by the nature of them being already fractured from maybe childhood trauma or rape or abuses, that also could allow for, hey, Colorado's in the house, for them to be susceptible to that kind of infiltration. So we'll go into the4ThKind. I put it in my my community notes, and if you ever get a chance, it's really, don't go there if you can't handle that kind of madness. If you're very sensitive to that type of falling apart, then you will be totally triggered by it. It just is. But I want to say I'm grateful to many of you. Many of you contacted where she lives to alert the authorities, because she was giving out her address and making herself, because she has little ones. We always have to be protective of. If a mother's acting out of sorts, by all means, we have to be the community that makes sure the babies are safe and that she's safe. Because it's not just about the babies being safe, the mother has to be safe too. And she is literally unraveling before everyone's eyes. And there are a lot of people who are a party to making sure that she stays that way. So we'll get into the4ThKind. We'll get into organic. I'll break down on the same helicopter going around. We'll get into portals, biological portals and inorganic portals, and how that sometimes interrelates to MkULTRA. As you step in the room, please put a handy dandy like on the video, just to let me know this is a topic that sits well with you and is cohesive, and hopefully gives you something to think about. So, like I said, I shared a video, and some of you have been on my my Instagram. I've already seen it. I gave you a bird's eye view. Now, many of you don't know, the4ThKind goes back. She followed my channel. She still does. And there's certain things that we've walked in worlds where we've kind of walked in similar circles with similar people back in the day. Okay, if many of you don't know, the4ThKind was a I've locked my IG. I think I just closed it, and you could just request. I did that at the time to keep the trolls from coming in there. There's not many trolls that come in there, but I just closed it at one time. Don't worry. What I'll do is I'll open it back up, I think, or just I'll take in requests. sometimes I do things because something happened that day. I think you guys probably remember more so than I did. I locked it for a reason that day. Probably something was going on here, so I didn't want people coming over there thinking they can do, be all in my business. But I'll do something about that later. So I apologize if you can't get in. You probably just put a request and I'll just look at them. It's hard because a lot of people are putting requests and I have to go through them. I don't like having to do that. It's just time consuming. You can understand. So just letting you know. So Tequila and myself have kind of gone in this, and she's followed my page for a long period of time, sometimes mimicking it. And she has basically gone ultimately the off the edge. She's off the edge, and it's very sad to see that visually and to hear that. And I shared the video on IG. We kind of took a look at that when she was singing off-key hymns and singing about Jesus. And then all of a sudden, like, she was doing that, and then all of a sudden she went left, and now she's talking like she's a brown person, ebonical. She's gone into her altar right now, which, big up to the C-Star who shared her altar, which was Jennifer. I think is it Jennifer is the name of the altar? She's gone into her altar right now, Jennifer, who talks like ebonical. They say they're a brown person. They say they're a brown woman. And they say that, they're always using the N-word and talking about prostituting. So that's her altar. She's actually in that right now. I don't know what triggered her to go in the altar. I think something on my page, because I shared something on her page. I think she was triggered, okay? So thank you for everyone who called her apartment complex to make sure that the babies were okay. I really feel like her children right now, while she's going through this meltdown, could be unsafe. So, we don't do it to hurt the mother. Many of us are mothers, aunties, grandmothers, fathers, cousins. We do that to make sure that the mother's safe and she's safe. But she's actually, her MkULTRA is actually falling apart, and you can see her melting down. So this is an example of a. I personally think that she is a organic portal. Okay, by the nature of her, she was, obviously signed into the industry. Remember, she came on before. She was on MTV for a long time. Many of you saw Tequila. She had a show. What was it? Something like what was it? Like a dating show? Not a dating show. Like almost like those dating shows or whatever. She was in the industry. Many people knew her from them. Okay. What happened? What happened? Did something happen? Okay. Oh wait, hold on. Okay. I don't know what happened. Dating show, right? It was a dating show. Okay. A Shot of Love. I think something like that. A Shot of Love. She was on a show. She was very popular. She was being interviewed by TMZ. She was on. She's been. She was about that life. Now, I personally think she's literally, when she was starting to unravel, when she was in the industry. Many of you know, I had followed her from years ago when she was blowing spots on the industry, talking about the cloning centers, the same as one of the people that I respect now. I won't mention his name. You've heard me mention his name. He did the same. Also, B.O.B., who I had an affinity for, which many of you knew about, were blowing spots on the cloning industries. And I'm sorry, let me put a sidebar in here. For anyone who was looking for those cloning videos, YouTube deleted them. They didn't tell me, and they took them off. And I had them private on my Patreon, and thank you to my Patreon subscriber. One of my Patreon subscribers was looking at my Patreon to look for the cloning videos, and they disappeared. And they've been taking, anytime I mentioned anything to do with that, they've taken it off. Like, if I put it in the title, they've always taken it off. I don't know, they don't give me any warning. They haven't said anything about the video. They just remove it. So it's a real deal. So with B.O.B., you should mention a lot about the cloning centers. A lot of different people have mentioned it, but she was one of them, and she was a big intellist at the time, and she was fractured. I personally think because she was doing a lot of drugs and alcohol, that's why her name is Tequila. There's a reason why she named herself after a liquor. You always think to yourself, if someone's naming themselves after, like Holly Molly. Some of you have names like something Alizé. Those are all names of alcohol. I already know that you should be a Cardi B. You know, when you name yourself after the liquors and the elixirs that have to do with possession, I already know you've been compromised just by the nature of you even thinking that's appropriate to name yourself that. Okay, so she was blowing spots back in the days. Many of you may not know her, but I knew her from that arena. And she was saying if something happened to her, you know, she would probably be removed. And she said she was afraid at one point. I mean, if you follow that, um, if you follow the nature of her platform for many years, you will see when she literally hit that tipping end, when they came for her and they reprogrammed her. So she was blowing spots, talking about the cloning centers, talking about what they do, the Satanists, all the coding, and she already was compromised mentally, meaning that you know, you could tell that she was unable to verbally communicate properly, which makes me think she had some brain damage for maybe doing too much drugs and alcohol. Kind of like Ozzy Osbourne. Anybody knows Ozzy Osbourne? You know, Sharon. I know his wife, right? Sharon. Ozzy Osbourne is the classic case of someone who's been doing a lot of drugs for a long period of time, and how it damages the way that your brain synapses fields and you know, is able to field in information. Sometimes you'll get shakes. It can damage all your nerve endings. You know, it causes a multitude of damage to your brain. Okay, it's just like those who are boxers who get hit in their head several times. It kind of throws off your equilibrium and eventually gives you brain damage. It's the same for doing certain kind of drugs for long periods of time, especially a lot of it at once. So Tila Tequila is one of those who has some of the symptoms of those type of people who've been you know, utilizing heavy narcotics or, you know, other kinds of synthetic drugs that have caused brain damage. You could see it back in the days. And she's not I think Tila might be a little younger than me, or we might be the same age. I don't know. She might be a little younger than me. I think we're in the same age range. I think so. I have to check. I think so. Because I've known her from back in the days. I think we were around the same age. But yeah, she's had brain damage. So even when she was breaking out with her intel, she literally was starting to have issues speaking. Her verbal communication was already altered and damaged, and that already allowed her to be susceptible to infiltration. It wasn't going to be hard for them to recycle her or to reconfigure her mind, because once you're compromisable by the multitude of drugs or alcohol that you are doing daily, you know, if they decide they want to keep you around, it's not that hard to do it, to place you in a program and, you know, recycle your mind and swipe your memory and probably institute some new patterns of behavior. And that's the MkULTRA system. It's kind of like traumatizing you, or sometimes electrodes. They use electrodes to shock your mind, put you under electroshock. And what it does is it allows your synapses to collapse in a certain kind of way and allows to field in new information, or to insert other, you know, aspects of self that you think are real and they aren't